Hey guys, welcome to the Tom Reefer studio again, new viewers. This is the 20-gallon mixed reef cube, and up top is the 5-gallon nano. That's LPS dominated, and in the back the infamous 6-gallon tall. That's also a mixed reef. And over here is the 10-gallon peninsula, and that's also a mixed reef. We just put some aquapora in there, and I'm going to answer all your questions on Water Change Wednesday, and it's all going to happen right here. Alright guys, new viewers, guess who this is? Today's video. Alright, trying to get rid of that thing. Alright, so you can see that little thing there. New viewers, today is called Water Change Wednesday. It's a Q&A. You leave me any question you want below the video in the comments section. I'll answer it there, and then I answer it here. All right, so let's get right into it. Water Change Wednesday on Thursday. Disher asks, do you recommend the Hanna tester versus Salifer? This is my take on the Salifer versus Hanna. I like Salifer for calcium. I just grew used to doing the drip method, and then you read off the figure on the syringe, how much you put in before it turned color. I have the Hanna calcium test, but it's really good, but it takes a while to do it, and there's a little bit of a learning curve. So I've been sticking with the Salifer as far as calcium. I stick with Salifer nitrate, but I use Hanna for DKH because it's so accurate, and I use the Hanna for phosphate. 6 days ago. I use 6 days as my last ending point, and then I answer questions from there forward. Oh, while I remember, Christopher has been dying for a shout out. Here it is, Christopher. Christopher B, one of my early on followers. This is the shout out. Bots28 asked if Fluconazole can work on all algae. What I've seen is it's working on everything that I had in my tank, which is now clear, except bubble algae. It didn't completely eliminate bubble algae. I notice it to be reduced a little, maybe if I did more treatments, but I'm not going to go down that road with too much Fluconazole in my tank. I left my audio on 12 minutes and didn't realize this thing. Dagoberto said, okay, Tom Reefer, enough with 10 to 15 minute videos. Time to step it up with live stream and duets. Bobcat asked about Mandarin feeding questions. I won't get into his full intro and synopsis, but he wants to know what else he can feed other than live pods that he's putting in his tank once a week. I've said this before, guys. I have SA slow sinking pellets. I started with 0.5 millimeter for my Mandarin. That was 2 years ago. She's a little chubby. She eats, I believe I have pods in my tank, but I see her eating the slow sinking pellet. That's what I would recommend, Bobcat. Track it down. They're now on Amazon. It's Sustainable Aquatics, and it's either 0.5 millimeter or 0.8 millimeter. Obviously the 0.8 get a little bit bigger. I started with the 5 because she was small when I first got her, and then went up to the 8.8. 0.5 and 0.8. George asks how to increase his nutrient level. He's low nutrients and he'd like to increase it. He's got a 25-gallon lagoon, and he's thinking he'd like to try it with water change. George, you can do that if you reduce your water change quantity or frequency. Your nitrate and your phosphate will begin to increase. That's a tricky subject because if you skip a water change, say you're doing weekly and you go to bi-weekly, where you're gonna do, or bi-month, what is it, bi-monthly? Bi-weekly? Whatever, twice a month. If you start going twice a month, then you might see an increase, and therefore you might start seeing algae come in where you don't want it. So you have to be really careful. I've always opted to go low nutrients, feed my tank, maybe get a refugium in there to use up some of the nitrate, keep your phosphate as low as you can. But mainly, what does your tank look like? What do the inhabitants look like? If everything looks good, don't mess with anything that you're doing right now. Keep it the same. Okay, George asked, he has a 15-gallon tank. He wants to know how many fish he can put in and when to add them. George, if you've already cycled your tank, that means you've gone through the nitrogen cycle. I have to assume that you know what that is. If you don't, check out some of my videos. I have that on there. As soon as you've gone through your nitrogen cycle, which means 0 ammonia, 0 nitrite, you can start adding fish. And the key with small tanks is to go slow. In 15 gallons, a rough estimate would be maybe 2. It depends if they're really small, maybe 3, but start with 2 and then test your water. And also test the behaviors of the fish. When you start getting more than 2 fish in 15 or under, there can be a competition for territory and they can be some fighting. You want to make sure you're getting the right fish in there. Try with 2, George. Start with 2, test your water. Ammonia shouldn't go up if you're cycled already with 2 fish. And see the behavior of those fish. If they seem to get along, then maybe add 1 more. Do your research on the fish so they can be compatible with each other. IBW Bro asks about fragging LPS, in particular fragging Duncan, frog spawn, and hammer. Fragging LPS aren't hard, you just have to make sure the colony is well grown. And what I mean by that, you have to make sure that the coral skeleton is exposed. Best way is to bandsaw. They have those wet bandsaws meant for coral in aquariums. Or you can use bone cutters, but that's not going to be super accurate. It may crack or break too much, but you can do it that way also. You want to cut on the calcified skeleton area, not on the fleshy tissue, and then just glue it to a frag plug or a piece of live rock. JC asked about what brand my 6-gallon tall is, and I had to respond to him. You guys know that was custom made from monitor shelves, so I made that myself. It was 5 gallons until I added the overflow box, so that's a custom made JC. All right, Johnny's asking about when to add coral. He has 0 nitrates, his phosphates are 0 when he tests, and he's feeding twice a day, which is awesome. If with those levels, that's good. You have to keep an eye on that. And he wants to know when he can add corals. And you're ready, Johnny. Steven, let's make it next Wednesday, all right? I'm coming to the end here. All right, guys, that's got to do it for today. I agree. Sunday's going to be a cool one, a DIY. I'm going to stick stuff to my glass and everything. It's going to be great. See you Sunday.